Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm TyJon Charlie, sitting down with Brian Edward Wolf. A lot to talk about today. We've been kind of procrastinating on this a little bit, but I've been wanting to get in here to talk about your new album for a long time. Now that it's out and everybody can hear it.
My new album, Sea Glass, is streaming on all platforms. Came out on September 26th. It's 9 songs. There are 12 features on this album.
Which I was privileged enough to make it full. Was it 4 tracks?
You were on there 4 times.
So that was cool. Very cool.
Alex Gerard of No Robot was on there. Ashley Helvey, Chloe Alexander was on there. Eric Nelson, the man who remixed and mastered this album.
The man, the myth, yeah.
Who else was on there?
You said Jay?
Jay and Janae Thomason were on there from Hot Sauce Universe. Kyle Yap was on there. Maddie May, the singer of Front Street Collective, was on there. Scott Boyer, guitar player of Melody Trucks, was on there. Toads was on there, also with No Robot.
Yeah, and a billion other things.
You were on there. Low was on there.
Yeah, Low sang on I Thought of You. That was pretty cool. But
we went to, I still miss that day that we went to Michigan.
Oh, yeah, that was a good day.
That was a good day.
Shot that video. But let's get into it here. So let's just talk about the recording process for a little bit. So, you know, we've had you in here a few times kind of throughout, but now that it's like, you know, more in the rear view, it'll be interesting to hear your kind of take on it. So let's just start at the beginning, the whole story of the album. I mean, you came from...
In January, I moved back to Illinois. I was living in Oklahoma at the time.
On a train, which, you know, we've did that train song you wrote that didn't make the cut, but might still be a release later.
I took a 20-hour train from Dallas to Normal, and yeah, I had the idea to kind of come up with an album that was sort of connected with sea themes. You know, I really wanted to make an album that felt like you were kind of sitting on a beach hearing these songs, and with that in mind, I just, you know, I went to work. I wrote and recorded these songs from January to February.
Yeah, and you were writing even more than the song. Like, you just kept writing. I just remember it was like every day there was like a new song there for a while, and like you would do like some rough demos of them, and I'd be like, oh, that's a pretty good one. Oh, that's a pretty good one. And then the ones that I was saying that to didn't even make the cut, because the ones that you wrote otherwise, I think, are even better than those, which are cool. It's cool that you just have so many songs and stuff. So what was do you remember the first song you wrote that made the cut?
Originally I had the idea to kind of have sort of like a Dylan-y sounding album I just wanted to have like sort of simple song structures, but with like a lot of lyrics and stuff like that. But, you know, it kind of ended up becoming a whole different thing. You know, I had some new ideas that sort of just came out of inspiration, and I started putting together this album.
Do you remember which one you wrote first?
The first one that made the album was probably Rain Clouds. And I remember at the time,
I got a feature.
That was like one of my favorite songs that I'd ever written.
That's kind of how you run though when you're writing songs. You think, oh, this is the best, and then you're like 2 days away from it. You're like, next song.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. This year, like alone, I probably wrote like, I don't know, 40 songs.
Crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, and I recorded like at least
2.
I recorded at least like, you know, probably like 20 to 25 of them maybe.
Yeah.
So that was another thing, like trying to pick the songs that were going to make the album. But I think the songs that ended up making the album, I think it was very clear which songs belonged and which ones didn't.
Right.
And with having that many songs, it was kind of easy to be like, okay, you know what, like, let me, this, you know, A and B goes here, and then maybe like
kind of
mapping it out. I'm really happy with how the album turned out. All the features killed it. They just kind of amped these songs. You know, the possibilities of what they could be, you know, were just sort of like in question when I decided to have like all these people, you know, join me on this adventure.
Yeah, and there's a lot. It's kind of really crazy. I think when you first
everybody really elevates it.
Was it Janae was the first one?
I think Janae Thomason and I, we did that song
In My Shoes.
In My Shoes, and I was like, this needs electric guitar. And then, you know, I had been listening to some local bands and just trying to kind of figure out like what I was kind of going for, and I kind of stumbled upon No Robot, and I reached out to Alex and was just like, you know, are you interested in doing this? And he was like, yeah, you know, I'll give it a go. And yeah, we kind of, you know, we worked on that song together, and we're just like we worked really well together, and we're both just like, let's do a couple more, and ended up doing My Confession and The Curtain.
Right.
Which is, it's so crazy that those are like, that we lived with those songs for like a whole year. Because I just remember standing outside listening to the demos, and it was like freezing cold outside. There was like a foot of snow on the ground.
And I remember you posted on Facebook, and then you're like, nah, I'm not going to release it.
Well, I had uploaded,
because it was the unremixed, because you know
I uploaded like an
version.
alternate version of the album with even like a few different songs for like 20 minutes on Facebook, and then I was like, nah, that's stupid.
Classic Wolf.
I was like,
his mind.
I was like, nah, that's stupid. These songs are pretty good. Like, I should probably do something with them eventually. So I took them off Facebook, and it was actually you that kind of like pushed me to finish this thing. Started working with.
I just remember hearing them and being like, these deserve more life than you might give them.
I think like a handful of those songs are probably like my best songs.
Right.
I kind of got lucky. You know, the inspiration, like I said, really struck a, you know, taking that 20-hour train ride in it of itself was a terrible experience, but also very inspiring.
Very reflective, I would imagine.
Well,
just thinking about everything.
Yeah, I remember at the time the whole thing I was just thinking was like, God, these coach seats are absolutely horrible. Like, I just couldn't get comfortable the entire time. Like, I maybe slept like an hour or two that entire trip. It was trippy. You know, I would say it was really trippy.
The trip was trippy.
The trip was trippy. I felt I was on a trip, and I was on a trip, you know? Hard to explain. But yeah, it started with Rain Clouds, and then In My Shoes, and then The Curtain, and then, you know, once I had the ball rolling, it was just like everything just kind of came natural at that point.
But it wasn't originally your plan necessarily to have so many features. That kind of came later.
I was like, well, now I have like I have a song with 2 features, and then I have a song with 1 feature, but it still feels kind of empty. And then I think
was that Rain Clouds, or what was the other one?
It was Rain Clouds and probably The Curtain.
And My Confession
we snuck Ashley in on that. And then My Confession originally was just Alex, but I was super inspired by the Fleet Foxes. So My Confession is a good example. It's the opening song on the album. It features Alex Gerard and Maddie May from Front Street Collective, and this song is just like super inspired by the structure of the Fleet Foxes album Shore. Now in 2020, that album came out, and I was living in Virginia at the time, and it was just like the perfect album at that point. And I was so inspired by like all the beach themes, and like we were living at the beach,
Virginia Beach, right?
And it was just like I felt like a different person. It was exciting, so I knew I wanted to do something along those veins. And then in 2022, in January, I took songwriting lessons with Robin Pecknold.
It's cool. Gotta meet him and stuff.
And I was just like so inspired by that album that I was like, you know what, My Confession would be even better if it started with, you know, a female vocal. And when I stumbled upon, you know, when I heard Maddie sing, I think at the Jazz Up Front, and I was just like, she is incredible.
Yeah.
And asked her if she would be interested in doing this, and it just like was the perfect start to that album.
She was pretty much all about it, right?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she wanted to do it. She came over here. She knocked it out pretty quick. Like, I would say we probably were in here recording those vocals for like 30 minutes.
I would say Janae was probably the same way. Janae and her were both pretty quick vocally, I would say.
I think with Janae, like, that was when I was even still trying to figure out these songs a little bit. So I think we both were kind of like trying to figure out like how it was a little bit different with her. And I think that was too because like the song was still like super fresh, whereas My Confession, like I had a recording of it like done.
Yeah, completed.
And you know,
all she really had to do was listen to your melody, get her take on your melody. And
that's what it was. I sent her the song, and she sent me like a voice reaction on Facebook.
Right.
just like her reaction to the song, saying she was definitely interested in doing it, and it worked out great.
And that was still kind of in the baby phase, so that was before you even got to. So what I mean, I probably was pushing you to go to the studio and do it, but what was the nail in the like what made you decide to actually like bring these songs to the studio to bring them to that next level?
Well, I think like once I had like so many features or whatever, and I was like listening to it, and like obviously like I'm a fan of like the lower-fi music, like the indie shit that I like, but I was like, if I'm bringing in all these people, like I want it to sound like really like crisp. And I think like I know you were nudging me to do it, but also in the back of my mind I was like, some of these are my best songs. Like I have a new job. Like I have money, like I might as well make these sound the best I can.
And that's always, my pitch is like, if you're gonna do it, you should try to, get the best out of them.
Well, and Eric, when I was like traveling about last year and released my No Place to Be album, he mixed that one. It was remotely because I was in like, New Mexico and then Colorado.
Yeah, so you're doing a lot of stuff over the phone.
I was all over the place, and it was all over the phone, but I was really happy with how like those songs ultimately sounded, so I knew that he would do a good job, especially if he had more to work with. And that was just a very stripped back project.
And you just being in the room, because that communication over the phone can be a little frustrating at times, and trying to do a whole album that way, I can't even imagine.
It is interesting though, since all those songs were recorded here, and like with the exception of like one or two in Pontiac, and then Ashley recorded her vocals at Eclipse Studios, but other than that, it was all just sitting in there and mixing.
Right. Yeah, it's just the mixing and mastering process. So a lot of it was tracked right here in this room, which is pretty crazy to think about. And I would say the same for
most of it. I would say about 85% of it.
No Place to Be is the same, pretty much.
Was that recorded in here?
Most of it, yeah, because
all of it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the magic happens here, I guess. But anyway, so then you got it in the studio, and having Eric take a listen and really just tighten everything, get the tones all right, and getting everything just like perfectly crisp sounding. I think that really brought it to the next level.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and yeah.
All right, well, let's just start the track list then, because I know you already talked a good amount.
So you want me to just run through each song?
Yeah, just tell me a little bit about it. Okay. So, My Confession, I guess...
so the first song is My Confession with Maddie May and Alex Gerard. Basically just sort of kind of a love song in a way, but a different kind of love. It's almost a song about reflecting on, wanting to... a little bit of like fear of committing, and
holding on to hope. I think there's a little bit of hope in
holding
that
on to hope, and sort of like just one of those things, like sometimes it doesn't always work out, and like that realization, but like maybe like you don't necessarily want to like let go.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like the confession, because I think that's really relatable. I think a lot of us feel that way. Like sometimes we're put in a position where it's like not the best scenario for our mental being, and vice versa, and but that doesn't necessarily mean that the love goes anywhere. It stays, and that's what makes it so hard.
And then having Maddie open it up, I think, just really like put the icing on the cake.
Yeah, so Maddie opens the
whole album, yeah, which is pretty ballsy in general, to just be like, I'm gonna let a different singer.
If anything, it sets the tone, because by the time I come in, you sort of like feel that duality, like oh, this is like almost like two sides, like in a way.
And that song almost feels like a conversation. The way you recorded it and the way you wrote it is almost having Maddie come in and almost play a part. To an extent, was a cool idea, and
it gives it a theatrical feel. It's very like cinematic and musical.
Very, very much, I think, elevated it. And right away, I mean, her vocals are just so good. Like, I mean, there's no question about that. Just hits you right in the face.
It draws you in. By the time my shitty vocals come in,
you're like, I can see it. No, it's a nice contrast, because I mean, you have a good voice, but in a completely different way.
For sure.
It's not like that. I mean,
she brings the soul. She gives, and by opening the album, I almost like feel it as like she gives the whole album soul. So she plays a very important part, and I'm really appreciative of her doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool tune, and everybody should definitely check that one out. So the second track, I Thought of You.
So the second track is called I Thought of You. It features yourself, TyJon Charlie, and Lothar,
Right.
your girlfriend,
Yep.
my roommate.
Got another title for her? Friend.
Friend. Yes, great friend. So y'all played with me on this song. Now I want to just start with, originally when I was going through my rock phase, it was like late spring, I started writing a bunch of rock songs, and this was one of the songs that I had written, and I just was like, if I played this acoustically, it would fit with all those other songs that I did, and so that's what I ultimately ended up doing.
Yeah, I was, I had this idea the whole time with that one to just grab my low tuned guitar, because you have it in A. A major is the key, and I was like, well, I could play an A major and get these different voicings, but a lot lower tone on it's this guitar back here, the low tuned one, and so I was like, it'd be cool to kind of see if we can kind of mesh your part and that part together.
Yeah.
So the whole rhythm section has this cool, it almost sounds like it's one guitar, but it has this really rich tone, because it's just a completely different sound than just a regular acoustic. So I like that. And then I did some higher doubles on a regular standard tuned guitar, played a little solo action, a little slide that you wrote, but I kind of performed on it, which was cool. And I don't know. It just has that song has a lot of interesting things going on.
And it's so short too, and it's crazy because so that's one of my favorite songs off the new album. So I'm excited to talk about that one, just because it's it kind of gradually builds, but if you listen, there is a lot of stuff going on. A lot of the stuff I think is kind of subtle. It blends well, kind of as you were saying.
I mean, you can't even tell I'm playing an acoustic almost, the lower one anyway. But it just
speaking of low, she really adds a lot to the table with this song too. Her sort of Beatle-esque vocals.
You definitely wrote it almost in a Beatle-esque way. I feel like that vibe a little bit from it, and so inspired.
I did technically write. I mean, that was another one. We were all sitting in here. We were trying to figure out how it goes, and I had it in my head. But that was the first time that I actually was doing it out loud. I was like, it should go like this. So hearing her do that was very exciting for me.
Yeah, because I was that's orchestrated that whole thing.
Because I was like, that's gonna sound really cool, and it
gives it such a lot more depth to the song with her vocals in it, and a lot of it's because I think it's she does sing harmony with you at times, but then there's always she has a trail, or it's not necessarily dueling vocals. But
I do want to say real quick, I know I said this about Maddie, but really all the female vocals I think on this entire thing really give the album soul, as I was saying, and I think Low is another example of that.
And
it really gives that song you almost feel it more when she comes in. You feel that that sort of back and forth, right?
Yeah, and I think that the tone we went with the kind of verby and stuff, it just makes it feel more beachy too, which just kind of fits right in with the rest of the stuff.
And then we drove up to Michigan and shot the video at Silver Beach. And
Silver Beach we drove by it, but we were like, it's too busy. We got to go to this other one across the way. I can't remember the name of the beach.
We're gonna call it Silver Beach.
Okay,
that's what I've been telling everybody.
But,
it was in that town. Right?
Yeah, it was right across they have a little harbor. So it's the beach right across on the other side of the pier.
And I'll say thanks again for doing that.
Yeah,
you did a really good job. You got some really cool shots out of that.
I always want to go to the beach at least once in the summertime, and I don't really ever get a chance to. Yeah, there was a time a couple weeks before I had a show in Michigan. I was like, I wanted to go early, but the cards didn't play out right, and
sure.
I was an hour. Or no, at a point I was 5 minutes from the water, and it's I didn't even get to see it. So I was a little salty. It was a really hot day. It would have been a perfect day to go to the beach. So you were saying you wanted to shoot some stuff at the beach, and I was like, well, here I got some locations. We used to go here when I was young. I know some different ones. Talked to my buddy Craig Roberts up there. He lives up there, and he gave us some different beaches to check out, because we went to that first one that was the hike.
Yeah,
we had a hike with all our gear and the little bit of dunes, but not
that was fun.
Warren Dunes is giant.
I mean, you knew, you could probably tell I was having just the blast.
Yeah,
I think you were too. It was just so fun.
Well, it's I have a tough time with like a real vacation because I don't know how to just sit.
Yeah.
But you know, we had a goal.
The fact that we were doing something made it even more fun. Almost,
yeah, I would have been at a loss if we were just like walking around.
The day couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah, it was a very nice
it was
day.
perfect.
It's very windy. That's the only thing. But
it kind of died down though a little bit as the night went on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just like you got some great shots out of that, and then I edited it like. I edited it the next day.
Yeah, you were a quick turnaround, but you always kind of are with that stuff.
I mean, I had the vision. Like, I think we got pretty much almost every shot that I had in mind, in a way, you know.
And then a couple extras.
But, a lot of B-roll. And
yeah, it was pretty easy for you to put together.
I didn't know there were crabs in Michigan, so that was exciting.
Right. Yeah, so it was a fun day, and we came away with something to show for it. So it's always nice when a video's cool, but then it also is kind of like a little bit of, you know, it's almost like a home video.
And I think that song was a lot of, like, according to my statistics, it seems like that one was one of the favorites among the 9 songs. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that one turned out.
Yeah, I like a lot of things about that one. I really like that low tune guitar, and you know, I got
that song kind of grew on you, didn't it?
Yeah. I was kind of iffy a little bit, but once I heard it and it's you know, the final product with, you know, everything all worked out in its place. It's a fun, quick song.
Sometimes
I don't think it was I
dislike it.
Yeah, but it wasn't like maybe my favorite right out of the gates. But anyway, it kind of, with all the different elements, it's so like, it almost has like an ADD a little bit, where you're like, oh, there's this light guitar, oh, there's a, you know, high guitar, oh, there's loads of vocals, oh, there's that, you know, there's just like so much stuff, so quick too. It's just like hit you, kind of keeps your engagement in the song, I think.
Speaking of engagement, let's move to the third
track,
The Curtain.
The Curtain.
So that one is The Curtain with Alex Gerard and Ashley Helby, and that was another one of the early ones. I think that was the third one,
right?
Because it was Rain Clouds, In My Shoes, and then it was The Curtain, and then Alex recorded guitar on that. I had the idea to kind of do what Bob Dylan does in a lot of his songs, where he'll just have like a subtle guitar like in the left ear, tucked away, doing like a solo
almost the whole time.
Essentially the whole song is just a one gigantic guitar solo from Alex Gerard, and he crushed it.
He always does.
And then I was like, I wish, there was a female vocal in this, last stretch of the song, just to, kind of like, I guess, build a little bit more climax in the song. And I had met Ashley at Night Shop. She was a bartender at the time, and we talked about music, and we had a lot of similar interests. And so I kind of reached out to her and was just like, is this something you'd want to do? I had also heard some of her songs that she was posting on Instagram, and I was a real big fan of her voice. I actually seen her play at Night Shop before.
Yeah, I saw her one time.
So it was just kind of, I was like, yeah, she has a really unique voice. She agreed to do it, and that was kind of interesting because, like, when she came and met us at Eclipse when we were mastering,
which is the only person that actually came into the studio.
She ended up recording her vocals in the studio, and that was her first time being in the recording studio, I believe. So that was fun, and yeah, I think she did a really good job.
Yep, knocked it out of the park. I think it sounds great. It did take a little bit of time because, with being in the studio, you get such a high, I don't know how to describe it. It's very high quality, obviously, if you're using like a nice studio mic, as opposed to our USB mics. And
so we were trying to like kind of match the tone of everything else for a while, but I think ultimately,
once we got it dialed in, it really really brightened the song up, I think, quite a bit at the end, and it gives it just more legs at the end because it's kind of like you've heard that chorus one way already, so it's like it's nice to have a little bit of elevation, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So, very cool song. Has kind of almost like a country, almost feels like a country song, like a little bit. I know Dylan is what you're saying, but
yeah, I was just trying to keep it very folky, but I've had a couple people tell me that, so that's interesting.
Just a little bit different vibe. I don't think it's a bad thing to include, that you have a little bit of that kind of in your bones. Not I don't think country. I know that there's a negative association with some country
Well,
music.
I spent a lot of time riding in the car to Iowa growing up as a kid. And there was always country music going on in the background. So maybe it was like something that
bled in a little bit.
It bled in a little bit.
Gotcha. All right, song number 4.
So the 4th song is called Toxic Waste. It features Chloe Alexander and Jay Thomason. So I met Chloe when I played at Night Shop back in March this year, and that was my first time playing Night Shop, and she was on the bill. She has a terrific voice. Obviously, I really dig her style. You know, she plays acoustic.
Yeah, was that the show I was at or no?
Yeah, you were there.
I remember seeing her play once, but I don't remember.
Yeah, you were there. I think you ended up giving her like some stickers or something.
Oh, right.
Even, but because you played bass.
Oh, was it that show?
It was that show. Yeah.
Okay, so well, that's a whole other thing. You'd been writing those songs, but none of them were really like done even close. Really,
right.
Had you even been to the studio really at that point?
No, I didn't start going to the studio until May.
And then we played. Was the only one we played off the album, Counting Sheep?
We played.
I think that was it.
I
think that was the one we played.
Was that the only one we played?
Because we played Sun Wake Me Up, and we played the Headless Horseman.
Oh yeah.
And one other one that I can't think of.
That would have been it.
But,
Counting Sheep song.
But yeah, anyway, we'll get into that.
Anyways, so.
But she sounded great that night.
Yeah, Chloe. I was just immediately impressed with her, and then ended up talking to her after her set. And we talked about collaborating on a song, and I was like, yeah, like I've got a few that I could send you, and we could just choose from one. And I did send her a couple little snippets here and there, and was like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And then one day I was in Pontiac. I don't remember when it was exactly, but I was just messing around on the guitar, and the riff kind of came to me, and I was just sort of like, wow, like I need to do something with this. Ended up writing it, sent it to her, and we're like, yeah, that's the one. That's the one we're gonna do.
I remember you being a little bit hesitant on that one, but I really liked the.
Well, when you have so
guitar.
many songs to choose from too,
yeah,
that was another thing. I'm like, is this as strong as some of the other ones? But I thought about it. The more I played it, actually, the more that song kind of grew on me. I think my songs just tend to grow, like they're kind of growers. Like,
yeah.
You can't. It's like
I don't know. I like that one right away. I could tell right away that
almost has like a Death Cab vibe or something.
I remember you writing some of the words right out there, and I was like, you should definitely do something with
most
this.
of the words I write are right there where I sleep.
Right.
So.
But,
I was just like, who am I gonna, get to do it needed another guitar. I think that was pretty evident. And I'm like, who am I gonna, who's gonna do this? And then I was like thinking of asking Alex because he's so good. Like it's just kind of a no-brainer. Then I was like, well, it'd be nice to kind of like see if somebody else would want to do this. And I'm like, Jay Thomason.
Yeah, and you'd already worked with Janae at that point.
Yeah,
I had talked Jay up quite a bit.
I had talked to him maybe a little bit here and there. Yeah, so
I just was highly recommending that he be on.
I sent him the song. He said, "Let's do it," and we tracked his song over at his house, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. Jay's a really great guy,
and just like a phenomenal guitar player.
Phenomenal,
maybe
guitar
one
player.
of the best in town.
I would say so, and he just absolutely crushed it. And "Toxic Waste" was the single of this album. And I think that was justified. I think it's a really catchy song.
Kind of an interesting side fact, Chloe did her vocals when she was down in Nashville, right?
Yeah, she tracked her vocals. She had just moved to Nashville, so she was, cutting it pretty close to the...
She pretty much sent her vocal in, I think, the day you were going to mix and master.
Yeah, I was like...
You were kind of in question
I was sitting
in
the waiting room when I got them. But it ended up working well. She brought a lot to that song, and Jay brought a lot to the song. Those guys we all just really vibed well on that song, and I'm really happy with that one.
Yeah,
if it's not my favorite off the album, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think it's up there for sure.
So
the finesse in Jay's guitar playing. It's so like understated and just like the right amount that he's just such a smooth criminal.
Yeah.
But anyway, definitely great.
So let's move on to the fifth song, Rain Clouds, featuring TyJon Charlie and Eric Nelson.
Right. So I did my part.
As I said earlier, this was the first song I wrote that made the album, and
I did my part here. Eric did his in the studio. I know that you didn't even really have an idea for having a second feature for quite some time till you kind of heard maybe like more of a finished product, and like it still needs something. I don't know why, but when I record and I'm like featuring on your stuff, it's like I'm just gonna try something weird. I had the tuned guitar on I Thought of You. This one I was like, well, I think a slide would sound cool, and I came back and tracked that little slide part on I Thought of You too that you had written.
Yeah.
And then but it was just I doing something that I haven't done in a really long time, and like trying to find.
It's cool.
Yeah, it was just different. Add some different
almost
textures.
Has like a SpongeBob-y.
Yeah, well,
feel.
Yeah, because I wrote that melody to that song almost right away when you wrote it. Because I remember I almost like felt like it was like a dueling vocal. Like I was just playing piano kind of while you were playing it and out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, came up with that melody. I was like, well, how could I express that a different way? And then the slide guitar, and it took me a long time. We actually had to track it twice. The second time we used that Fender Strat, right? That you
it was a Fender Telly.
Oh, Telly, sorry, yeah. So you only had that for a short. So that's the only kind of recollection of that guitar.
I returned it.
Yeah. But you played one show. I played a show
with it.
Yeah,
so
and then
cool.
I got to use it to track.
I played a couple shows with it actually. I played one in Iowa.
Yeah.
Were you there? You were there.
I think I might have showed up.
Cool.
But I know, but how nice of me to show up to that show.
Nah, I'm really glad you could open for me.
Anyway, so I don't know. It was just like it was a frustrating process recording that part, but with the way it ended up and sounded, just because I was so uncomfortable kind of playing with the slide. I have one that I use that probably doesn't even fit my finger right. Like finding which finger to put it on, but it's like I heard the way it should sound, and
it sounds really cool when it comes in because you're almost like not really expecting it,
right?
But you're like, it kind of takes you to the beach in a way. And what I love about it too is like that's one of those like it reminds me of something that I would have heard like when I was living in Virginia. Like just I remember one day in particular, like walking down the sidewalk, and there was like a song playing, and it was like a Jamaican song. I remember that, and it had a Jamaican singer, but it had the slide guitar going on, and I was like, it's kind of SpongeBob-y, but like something else a little too. And that song is so cool. It's probably one of my favorites off the album as well. And then I was like, I really wish there was something going on in this last verse, because it just repeats the first verse at the end. Almost like a sort of climatic, like Nirvana style even. I know they repeated a lot of their first verses on songs. So I did that and was like, it needs piano. And I asked Eric Nelson, the best piano player I know personally, if he would do it, and he did it. Yeah.
Super fast.
They're in the studio, super fast, and turned out awesome.
Yeah, I think
it almost has an Eternal Sunshine sounding tone to the keys.
Very cool. I think it just like that was the thing it needed. It needed something at the end. I mean, because there's a part in the middle where I kind of just drop out, and it just sounded a little bit.
Needed something else to come in.
Right, and then at the end, having them both in there to come together.
I know, that's such a cool outro.
But I'm pretty happy with that one ultimately.
I'm happy with that one too. Very sure.
So the next song.
The next song is Counting Sheep, featuring Kyle Yap and
me again. Yes,
Charlie.
I played some cello on this one, so I got out the old dusty cello.
You had a bass. You tipped it over a cello. You got a bass. Anyways, no, not really. You played it on that cello.
Yeah, that cello, which is a rough cello. And
isn't that the same cello they used for the Eleanor Rigby recordings?
Yeah, exactly. How'd you guess?
I don't know.
The way it sounded, because it sounds so awesome. That's what you should say.
Yeah, it sounds very like old. Revolver, old kind of,
Shitty.
Something you'd find like on the curb. But
exactly. And that's the tone, I think, of the whole album, right?
yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was going for.
But anyway, it has its own unique voice, and I knew we could
raccoons like music too. You know, they need something to listen to when they're going through their garbage.
So I got to play the cello. I hadn't played it in a long time, and we really had to really work out the part, and it was a struggle. But again, it's one of those things that like I have a chance to do. So I think that's the whole nice thing about having all the features is like I got a chance to shine in some different ways that I got to play some lead guitar. I got to play some different instruments.
You played acoustic, you played slide guitar, you played cello.
Right. So, and then I did that. Well, we'll get to that later. But anyway, so that game, I feel like that song's on ukulele, correct?
Yeah, I played it on
the baritone. So that's the only one on the baritone ukulele that you recorded.
Yeah, so it's baritone ukulele, the cello, and then Kyle Yap recorded this extended outro. He actually recorded 2 different solos with 2 different like sort of guitar tones, and I couldn't decide which one I liked best. So I was like, wait a second, like I wonder what that would sound like together,
right.
And instantly no brainer. I'm like, yep, that's what
I remember you being a little baffled by it for a little while, and then it just seemed to click kind of.
Exactly, yep.
And so that was very cool.
And that's another, it's a really simple song, but I find that to be kind of a haunting, sad song.
Yeah, and it's very relatable.
And I wrote that song in like 15 minutes. I don't know if you remember that, but you were like doing something on the computer, Lo was in here watching TV, and I was like, dude, listen to this. Like, does this sound cool? And I started playing it, and like almost like had the vocal melody already there. I mean, the guitar or the uke itself kind of has the vocal melody sort of like in there subtly.
Right.
But and I knew exactly what I was going to write about.
It's kind of a shorty, ultimately. I have a special, we did that show at the Night Shop, and we played that song, and I played bass on it for that. So I played all the low instruments. I did a little foot drum too on that one, and that one's form-wise was surprisingly confusing for how simple of a song it is. But it took us a while to kind of work it out. And when we played live, I was doing things that I don't normally play bass and the foot drums. But so I thought it would be like a unique kind of make me better musician overall. But that was probably one of my favorites out of all the ones we did, just because there's a couple of parts where it resolves, and it's like a different resolution. I
think that's what makes it like. I think I like how it resolves kind of quickly. Like it's like I said, a very simple song. Like your verse kind of comes in, and then you have that little like noodle that's going on, that little noodle solo or whatever.
Sounds like a mandolin or something.
And then by the time that cello comes in, it leads right into the outro, which is perfect for when Kyle comes in, because then it's just like by that point the song is at like the highest it's gonna be.
And just the lyrics in that song. The lyrics always catch me in that song because it seems to me like it's
kind
about
of smooth.
It seems to me like it's about not being able to fall asleep, and you're just like going through counting sheep. Obviously, you're trying to fall asleep, and it's not really going well because there's a lot of like, isn't there one?
You're like so tired, you're almost like losing your mind because you got all these things on in your thoughts, and like but at that point you're just counting sheep because like insomnia is like almost inevitable when you have that much on your mind.
Can you go through some of the lyrics on that one?
No rest, I guess I'm losing my mind. No time to unwind. Sleep's been hard to find. The days keep slipping away. I'm tired when I'm awake. I'm tired, see me yawn. Sheep can do no wrong. I'm counting them by dawn.
See, that last line that ties it all together, I really, for some reason, that one always hits me because, the sheep, there's no thoughts about the sheep. They're innocent in any kind of situation, especially if you're using them to fall asleep. You're trying to take your mind off of all the other stuff just by focusing on something so innocent and like that's supposed to make you fall asleep, and then you're still counting them at dawn, so you're still awake and you shouldn't be. Right. And there's a lot more that in that song that I think
there are layers, like
right.
I think all the songs have layers, actually. Like, especially, it's a very personal album.
Right.
So, like, I wanted it to have, like, that depth, but I also didn't want it to be, like, right on the nose. I wanted it to be, like, relatable. So, like, anybody, like, I was like, okay, what are the main the main feelings of these songs, and like that's like what's relatable. So I wrote them all just like basically surrounding those themes essentially, right. And that song was no exception.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that one that always catches me. I don't know, but the lyrics are just really, really, like you said, relatable.
Yeah,
and I think everybody's been in that, trying to fall asleep, but their mind's racing and they just can't make it happen.
And if I do another single for this album, it'll probably be that song, just because I just really like it.
Yeah, I think it's great tune.
Anyways, next song. So
good segue.
So the 7th song is called "In My Shoes." It features Janae Thomason and your boy Alex Gerard.
Right.
This was sort of I've always wanted to do this. I may have done this in the past, but probably just didn't like go anywhere with it. To have like a song sort of change tempo, where it's almost like 2 songs in one. Green Day did that on their 21st Century Breakdown album. Fun fact, on a couple songs.
Beatles done that too. Didn't they have one where?
Yeah, the Beatles have done it on several songs. I just like wanted to have a song that kind of like starts as something else and becomes something different entirely. Starts slow and it's kind of haunting. It's basically a little bit about depression, kind of like, that's the whole point of the title, like in my shoes, like this weight that I carry. And then, it's very like kind of drawn out, and Janae comes in and, she brings a little bit more like lightheartedness to it, just like a touch. But then the song completely changes and it becomes this upbeat, almost like, I don't even know, like just very
pop, kind of fun.
Poppy and fun and folky, while the lyrics remaining very depressing.
Right.
It's basically about depression, mourning, and
I will say that Gerard's parts in this song really, I feel like, tie it completely together. I mean, he does that in every song, but this one specifically, when it comes in, it just has such this like ambient kind of Pink Floyd-y kind of vibe to it. Just adds so much depth. And then it's crazy because he recorded it here on my shitty Cube amp, maybe with even my guitar. I don't remember
the Black Star.
He did the I thought he did the Cube for that one. But anyway,
maybe he did.
Regardless, like it just sounds so good for the minimal gear that we used and how we recorded it and captured it all. And then when the coin flips and you go to that second movement of the song.
What I like about working with Alex is he's so chill and so laid back, but he's also so in tune with like what needs to be added to a song. So obviously he's been writing songs himself for a really long time, as we all.
But I don't have that.
But sometimes
gene that he has.
Well, sometimes like even for me, like because like I do this too. Like I almost have to like sit on a song and think about it for a while, just like to know like what exactly am I gonna play here. But Alex is just so quick. Like he knows like his shit. He knows exactly what needs to be played and when not to go overboard. He knows when to hold back. And yeah, I think this was the first song that I worked with him on, and I knew that it was just gonna work. Shout out to Alex, great guitar player.
Yeah, and I mean really did. And then of course Janae's vocals on the upbeat part, and at the very end where she kind of belts those notes is really cool.
Yeah, when the song picks up, that's my favorite part of it. I just love that change, that and then it just immediately you're in it.
And then she's like on top of every note. She's like there with you the whole time, and it's just like a cool vibe change. And then
Janae is a great singer.
Yeah, no question about that. Yeah. And the way she belts those few notes at the end. And
I really like Janae. I met her so when I had visited last year, and I was on my No Place to Be tour, and I played my show at Diggers, and there was like 2 people, yourself and Lo.
Right.
And I remember like I was so happy with how I played too. I was like, oh, this sounds great. There just wasn't like too many people. And then of course like some other bands came through, and I'm happy for them. But they brought a shit ton of people.
Right. Well, they had just come from a different show a few doors down, the Stable, I think. And Melody Trucks was there.
Melody Trucks, and I think Alex was there.
Right.
And at that point I hadn't met him.
And it was like an open mic, so I mean they came and just kind of took over the stage, and then they just kept handing the guitar to different phenomenal guitar players in the crowd. I think Jay played a little bit there. And
yeah, I must have missed that part because like I don't remember meeting Jay that night. But I met Janae, and like what I did was I ran and got my acoustic guitar, and I sat outside and waited for everybody to leave, and then I started.
I may have went in and been like, "Hey, you should come check out."
And then I started playing, all these new songs I was really excited about, and then everybody just kind of piled up outside.
Yeah,
Janae sat next to us, and
probably about 10 people or something, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
And some of the people from the Melody Trucks was there.
They were
Isn't
there.
that how you met?
Scott Boyer was there. That's how I met him. And it was just really cool. And like I knew from that point on that I wanted to work with Janae. She sang a little backup, and I was
I think you had seen earlier Scott play in.
I saw Scott play, and I knew he was a terrific guitar player.
Right. So that was
a no-brainer.
Yeah. And I mean, he isn't even from the area, so it's probably a little tougher to get. But
that's why it's cool that he's on here. Actually.
Right.
Speaking of Scott.
Okay, yeah.
So the 8th song is called Float Away. It features Scott Boyer and Eric Nelson.
Yep.
And this was a song that I had recorded like with the other songs earlier in the year and had made a music video to, my hair was still like past my shoulders. And I was just like, this is one of my favorite songs I've like ever written. Like I love I was listening to a lot of Microphones, Mount Erie, and he does these like little hooky like guitar things sometimes, especially on that album, The Glow Part 2.
I knew that I liked that song like the first time you played it. It just had such a happy, sad vibe, if that makes sense.
It's actually a really sad song, and it's one of
what song on this album is really happy?
Probably the hidden track.
Yeah, the one that's not on there. Yeah, so I mean, all the songs, what I'm getting at, all the songs are a little sad. It's obviously a depressing topic, a little bit.
It's a sad album. I was going through a breakup, and I think a lot of those emotions and thoughts that I was feeling were fresh when I just happened. It's not like I really
set out to write.
I didn't set out to make that kind of thing, but it just came natural.
Yeah.
Like I think that's ultimately why this is probably my best project. It just feels very natural. Like nothing seems like very forced, or there's no lyrics I was really like scratching my heads on. That happens to me a lot. But Float Away was one of the songs that I was like, this, like I'm really proud of this song. I ended up asking Scott if he wanted to do some electric guitar on it, and he did this like really cool finger picking thing. And then Eric went, when we were mixing it, I was like, it needs something else. It needs like almost like an ice cream truck solo. And Eric Nelson played that on the keyboard, and the song just came together really nicely.
Yeah, he played the whole song though. I mean, he's on the whole track, just very subtly, and then he has that solo that's really cool. Yeah. And that kind of takes you to the lead guitar solo.
Yeah, because he's playing very low, but he sort of moves up the keyboard as the song progresses.
Yeah, it just adds but what I keep trying to add in is like, tonally, I feel like this is the most like on the mark song you may have, like, it's almost a perfect song in my opinion. Like,
thank you.
The way it's captured. I mean, it's a great song. I don't really have any of yours that I'm like, oh, that's a bad song, but
insert applause, thank you.
But there's just something about the simplicity and the way the vocals were mixed and the way that electric guitar was. It's just like it came
together really nicely.
Yeah, it's a simple song in some ways. I mean, the chord progression is actually a little weird, but it sounds simple.
It's not the easiest song to play,
and it's just, I don't know, it's a perfect song almost. And I think that you should be really proud of that one.
Thanks,
I think
man.
that one is like it's I almost sad a little bit it's so late in the track list, because it just like the tone of it is so nice.
For me, it's really sad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but that's maybe probably why I like it a little.
I think it's like at that point on the album for me, it's like when all those songs kind of like really come together, like everything, like as a concept, like as a whole. Like I could have ended the album with that song, and it would have been just as good, I think.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most solid songs on the whole album. I mean, I like a lot of the songs, don't get me wrong, so I think all of them are really solid, but that one just like is a standout to me for some reason. Just, I don't know, it's just like perfectly captured, and I don't know, it just it made me be like, you know, I need to learn how to get some of that stuff that Eric has in the studio, and because I mean it's simple. It's not like you're doing.
My favorite lyric of the album too is probably on that song, the moonbeams on an empty passenger seat, the break of dawn. You know.
Yeah, but I just think like, you know, it's a simple song that sounds great, and it's like it makes me want to start trying to make some songs like that myself, and it was kind of inspiring to hear it like, you know, sound so good.
Oh, stop.
I mean, it's a great tune.
I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about being roommates. Like, I think you definitely inspired me, and I think, I'm glad that I've inspired you. I think having like two songwriters in the house really helps keep the creative juices flowing.
And just having a back and forth about different, because, you know, sometimes we disagree, and sometimes, you know, you bring me over to the way you're thinking, and I do the same. And, you know, sometimes we agree on stuff too, and, you know, just reinforce it. We go down these rabbit holes of conversations about things. And I think that, you know, it's just beneficial to have somebody with a similarly creative mind to bounce ideas off of and be inspired by. So the last song on the album.
So the last song on the album is Anymore, and it features you again, TyJon Charlie, and it features Toads.
It's almost like I might have been the most available, because
it does seem that way.
I live very close.
You live close.
It's not a big ask for me.
We share a bathroom. So.
But anyway, so this song I was super pumped to be a part of. I think this is like, I always say this isn't a song for everybody, but
yeah, definitely
I'm one of the people that it's for, you know, like it's
yes,
very creative and very
well, so the idea of the song was to have this lo-fi shitty quality piano recording that's sort of just like on a loop that just kind of like never.
Who showed you the song that inspired it?
So you showed me the song by Daniel Johnston, Story of an Artist, and that song struck a major chord with me. A couple chords, actually. I think there were 3 total chords.
G, C, and F.
Similar to that. Similar. But so yeah, I think that I was like, well, if this is going to be on the album, it would probably have to be the last song. Kind of just ties everything up.
I think the video in that song, the Daniel Johnston, kind of takes it to another level too, because we watched the music video and it's like these old home videos. And Daniel Johnston's a super inspiring person because, like, he, you know, back in the day where there wasn't a lot of technology, he just worked with what he had, and it's like weird, but it's great at the same time. And I think that's kind of what you were going for a little bit tonally. I mean, obviously the songs don't sound the same, but you know, that inspiration got you there.
Yeah, it's like you kind of like what you're saying, like working with what you have, you know. Like I would have recorded this song on a really nice like grand piano, but
in a studio with great mics.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I had to work with what I had, which was that Casio keyboard that's sitting in my bedroom. That's like,
my keyboard. Yeah,
I've seen at least 3 of those at garage sales before.
Yeah. Well, if we're gonna be specific, it is a Yamaha.
But it does have that touch sensitivity.
Right.
And even my shitty Casio didn't have that, which is very cool. I recorded that song on my iPad microphone. It's just a Shure MV88, which I definitely recommend for you know, anybody just trying to get their songs recorded, because it's got that lightning port. You just plug it right into the iPad. And what I did was I set the iPad on top of the speaker
of the keyboard,
and I recorded it because I knew it would have sort of like a weird quality if I did it that way. And you can almost hear like you can almost hear the keys themselves being clicked because the volume wasn't turned up very loud. And I thought that gave it such a cool.
Almost gives it like this.
Almost sounds like there's 2 things. It almost sounds like there's 2 things going on.
A percussive element. And I think that's the name of the game with this whole song. Because even on my part, like, I got my pedal board out, I put as many effects on it as I could.
Yeah, what exactly did you do? So you recorded an electric guitar lead that kind of...
It's not even a lead. It's more of an atmospheric kind of... I mean, it follows the chords more than anything. But, I used the volume pedal, and at the end I used the wah, because I have a dual volume wah pedal. But then I was also using, delay. I was using I played electric on it, so I was
Yeah.
using the Black Star. I have this reverb shimmer setting.
And it was very subtle, very simple, and I'm pretty sure we used the first take.
Right, like we just got through it
Like-
pretty fast, and I do remember it being a little difficult because it's kind of a spotty song. Like you just played it freeform, and so being on and stuff, I was like worried, but we brought it into Eric. He's like, "Oh, it sounds fine. I don't know."
Yeah.
There was a lot of things like that where I just get overly critical of my parts, and then I'm like, maybe is Eric even going to be able to work with this? And then
that
Eric's
guitar-
like, "Yeah, it's fine."
The guitar you did sounds so like
It doesn't even sound like a guitar.
otherworldly that just like it's almost like dreamlike, I guess. Like
And
it's
I think that's the name of the song. I mean, the moral of the song, kind of very dreamy song in general.
Yeah.
So it fits the vibe.
and the most emotional song probably. I mean, I know that was an emotional, like listening to the Daniel Johnston song, and then like I think I wrote that song like the next morning or something like that, and
Recorded it.
I showed it to
like
you
that next
and-
night or something.
yeah.
And so very, very cool, very weird.
Because like I knew exactly, I was like, well, my version of the song would be this, and like so those lyrics came very natural. Like it was also kind of like jazz a little bit, like with the vocals, like with writing it. There's no like certain like tempo really. Like it's hard to explain. Like I felt like I could write a short amount of words or a long amount of words, like, and it would still fit. So I played around with that a little bit as the song goes on. But and then Toads of No Robot, he does a lot of production stuff. He added this. He did like a Thurman effect amongst a couple others.
Right, a lot of little subtle things that just add some atmosphere. I mean, that's pretty much all I did.
It
But
kind of just like blends, makes the song a little bit spacier, and
And with my part too, it's like I don't know that I've ever heard that sound on a different album exactly like that,
Yeah.
So I think that was what was really cool for me.
I think your guitar for sure, and I think that song in general sounds like it would be on, like, I don't even know where you would hear a song like that.
Right. So it's it has that Daniel Johnston inspiration. That's like the jumping off point, and then like having that creative.
I think even Daniel Johnston's song is a little bit like more structured than mine.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like that was just the jumping off point, and from there you took it to a lot of different places, and just you had the idea for the swells. I just added some of the texture to the swells, and I don't know. It just has and it's a great just cap on the whole.
And then the tone changes there towards the end of the song, and it almost like becomes even more dreamy.
And it's brutally honest. I feel like that's the part of that song I might like.
The whole album is brutally honest.
Yeah, but that one's like true. Like I mean, they're all true, but that one, like, I felt like extra, like you were just being like very blunt with how you felt and stuff, and I think that's what made it great.
Yeah, for sure.
But
thanks.
Anything else you want to say about the album? It's out now. You can stream it anywhere.
Yeah, go check out Sea Glass, my new album, Ryan Edward Wolf. It's streaming on all platforms. I would say, I know a lot of people have Spotify. The quality is even better on Apple Music. And I have both.
And we've listened on the CD, which the CD sounds...
Yeah, buy a CD. You can buy Sea Glass. They're available at Mother Murphy's and Waiting Room Records. I actually haven't been to those places in a while, so I actually hope... I'm sure there's still some, but...
Right.
But go check it out.
And the CDs are limited, so there doesn't have a ton of those. But...
I may have another single from that album at some point. I'm not really sure yet because I am working on more music.
Of course, always.
I already have songs for a new album, and I'm working on even more songs. So there's a lot of music shit going on.
Yeah, lots
to come.
But you shouldn't. I know you like to just move on, but I think there's something extra great about this album. You really spent the time. You really put the work in, the effort. You really spent a lot of time trying to organize people coming in to collaborate, and I don't know. There's just something extra about this album that I don't want it to get lost in the fray.
I mean, we worked on that album for 8 months,
something like that.
Yeah, because I finished it on literally the last day of August, and it came out on the 26th of September.
Right, but there was a big gap in there where you didn't really mess with that.
Yeah, I think I wrote most of the songs from January to February, like 8 of them probably, and then like not like I Thought of You was in like May, I think, and Toxic Waste I think was like around that time too. So those were the last two. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that it's definitely a special album. I think the features, all of them did such a great job.
Yeah. So this is the album here. It's 9 songs, 12 features.
I'll hold it like right up.
They're listed at the bottom. Those are all the features on it. That's my face on the back with all the songs.
And you designed the album art, which I think turned out really nice.
Yeah, this photo was actually taken at North End Beach in Virginia in 2020. I was there during COVID.
Right.
So, in fact, a lot of the themes on this album come from just like the last 3 years of my life, really.
Right.
4 years, maybe even just traveling the country. And I'm really happy with this project. And you can listen to it now everywhere you stream music. Go check it out.
Or buy it anywhere. Anyway, all right. I think that's it. I think we covered it. Appreciate anybody who takes the time to listen as always, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks again.